It's October 9th, 2025. Happy birthday to my mother. This is the NI versus AI podcast by Charles Lenart. I want to talk about a topic that I've been thinking about since like January, and I've actually recorded or tried to record this episode maybe, 5 or 6 times, and it just never quite landed the way I wanted to, so I never released it. And part of the reason for that is because I think it's probably the most important topic I have discussed to this point, and that is basically karma. And karma is something that artificially intelligent people never really seem to think about, and therefore it's a relevant topic to this podcast. But first of all, I think we need to start by defining it. And a lot of people have the wrong idea about karma. They think it's just what goes around comes around, which is, part of it. But the word karma itself is actually a British bastardization of the word kama. Kind of like the British go into India and they're like, hey, what's the name of this town? And they're like, oh, it's Mumbai. And the British are like, hey, okay, Bombay. And, Mumbai becomes Bombay and Kama becomes karma. And anyway, so the word is actually kama, and it comes from Sanskrit, and it means simply action. So good karma is just good action. Obviously, good action has a good reaction, which is the what goes around comes around part. You really truly do get what you give in this world, and that's why karma is so critical to living the life you want to live. Now, before I go any further, I want to say that, a lot of karma is one of those words that, hippy dippy type people love. They're like, oh man, love and light, good karma, just be kind, be loving, be compassionate. And, that's part of it. That's true most of the time, but that's not all of it. Sometimes, good karma is something that might not look so great. Like, for example, we could say, oh, lying is bad karma, which is true. More than 99% of the time. Like, honesty is the best policy. Just tell the truth. Don't be deceptive, But, suppose you have you're harboring a family of Jews in your basement in, Germany in 1940, and the SS shows up and they say, hey, we're looking for Jews. Know where we can find any? In that case, is good karma saying, yeah, sure, I got a family of them in my basement. Come on in, guys. Right? So, so it's not as simple as the hippies would have you believe, the kumbaya crowd. And I want to mention a very important work, which I recommend everybody, no matter what your religious or spiritual inclination may be. I recommend that you read at some point in your life the Bhagava Gita. It's like 90 pages. It's like a 2-hour read, whatever, depending on how fast you read. The reason I suggest you read it is because it shows how, the central theme of it is that good karma is karma that is aligned with your dharma. And in the last episode and in other episodes, I've talked about, purpose, having a purpose in your life, having a mission. Why are you here? What's your North Star? What's going to guide you through life? Why are you here? Your higher purpose, and that's your dharma. Dharma is another word for that. And so in the Bhagavad Gita, the story is basically there are these two armies, great armies, lined up on, either side of a battlefield, and there's this, great warrior prince named Arjuna, and Arjuna is, really wrestling with the kind of moral implications of, starting this battle, because he's been trained by, some of his mentors are on the other side of the battlefield, and his cousins and, his friends. And, he knows that this is going to be bloody and violent. And he's like, man, I don't want to do this. So Krishna, which could be thought of as the Most High God, I don't know, any Hindus out there, you might be able to correct me on this, but in Hinduism, there are literally some sects of Hinduism, there are millions of gods, everything is a god. And Krishna is the ultimate, creator and destroyer god. Well, I think Shiva is the destroyer, but anyway, Krishna is the top ranked god. And Krishna shows up to Arjuna as his chariot driver, and Arjuna is like, man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to see all my friends and cousins and mentors, and I don't want all this blood and violence. And Krishna's like, no, Arjuna, you have to do this. It's aligned with your dharma. He's like, if you don't do this, there will be a lot more pain and bloodshed, and the whole universe will end. You must do this. And so, it's funny because a lot of hippies read the Bhagavad Gita, but they never seem to get that message. Sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind, So everyday example, I gave one in the case of harboring a family of Jews in your basement. But another one might be, you have a friend who's a junkie, and he says, hey, man, can I borrow $20? And I'm like, well, you say, well, you already owe me $40. But sure, here you go, because it's good karma. You want to be kind. You want to be generous. You can see he's got the shakes and he needs his fix, and you don't want him to suffer, so you give him the $20. Is that good karma? No. Actually, good karma in that case would be to say, let's say your friend's name is Bob. Bob, I remember when you were a bright, shining, optimistic, energetic, trustworthy, productive, healthy young man, and you're fucking your life up here, and I can't be around for that. So no, you can't borrow $20. And as a matter of fact, don't call me anymore. Don't come to my house. The next time I see you will either be at your funeral, or you will have gotten your shit together and cleaned your shit up. So good luck to you, Bob. Bob slithers off, and he's really got the shakes, and he's really feeling bad and everything. And you just caused him probably a lot of pain because you've been friends with him for a long time. Plus he's jonesing, So in the short term, you created some pain, but it was the right thing to do, right? And there are a lot of examples like that. But now for the good news, the hippies are right 99% of the time. And 99% of the time, good karma is really simple. It's just being kind, being considerate, being empathetic, polite, being a gentleman, being a lady, and treating others as you yourself would like to be treated, the golden rule. It's that simple. And why should you do this? Well, there are a couple reasons. One, just because, it's the right thing to do, but I know a lot of people are selfish, and they go, why should I be nice to other people? Well, again, remember, you get what you give. And let me give you a little bit of advice here. And this is just it's not my opinion. I happen to know this. You never know who you're talking to, okay? It may surprise you to know that a lot of billionaire type people, very ultra high net worth people who live in mansions, and every stick of furniture in that mansion costs more than your entire house, and they have 8 of these mansions, and they live in a world where everybody kisses their ass all the time, and there's no real love, and there's no real friendship, and everybody wants something from them, and they tend to become, sort of, in a way, lonely, I guess, and very cynical about human nature, because all they deal with are ass kissers, clout chasers, people who want something from them, including often their own families. So here's the thing you probably didn't know. I heard that something like 80% or like a vast majority of billionaires will leave their billionaire lifestyle on purpose for a while at times, you know, sometimes even going so far as to appear homeless. But, you know, just putting on peasant clothes and jumping in a peasant car and, you know, leaving their security detail behind or telling their security detail to back off, and just kind of going out in the world and dealing with regular people just because they want to have normal human interactions where everybody's not kissing their ass. So you never know if that guy sitting next to you on a park bench is an undercover billionaire. And, you know, what harm is it? Even if he's not an undercover billionaire, he may be able to help you somehow. And even if he can't help you, you know, maybe he's on the verge of suicide. Maybe he's just lost his job and he's, you know, you don't know who that person is. And what harm is there in, you know, offering up a joke, making him laugh, being kind, you know, being considerate. You know, that person may be able to help you or they may not. But even if they're not able to help you, let's say in the case the guy lost his job and, you know, he's about to go jump off a bridge. Now all of a sudden you gave him a little bit of hope and you told him, hey man, you know, it's okay. You'll find another job. It'll be a better job, you know, and, you know, your wife will love you again and your kids will respect you again. And, you know, you got this, man. You can turn this around. And let me tell you about a time when I had lost a job or something. And, you know, that guy, instead of jumping off the bridge and devastating his family, he goes home and he starts to turn things around, you know, and then his kids are happier and his wife is happier and, you know, he gets a new job that's better and, you know, he's whatever. Your actions, your kindness goes way out beyond you and that person next to you at the bar or on a park bench or at the beach or wherever you happen to interact with them. And somehow, some way, you know, that kindness comes back to you and, you know, it's instant. It's kind of instant. It just feels good to be nice to somebody, you know, like generate goodwill and good vibes. But you never know. That person may be a billionaire and they may change your whole life just because you restored their faith in humanity and you showed them that there are still good people out there and not everybody's a clout chaser, ass kisser, parasite, etc. But that's not why you perform good karma. Okay. So karma is action that is aligned with Dharma, and Dharma is your mission from the Most High. You know, Krishna if you're a Hindu, Allah if you're Muslim, Yahweh if you're Jewish or Christian, whatever. I have a hippie friend named Joy. Hi, Joy, if you're listening. You know, who just calls it spirit. You know, call it whatever you want. It's that Most High. And here's a little caveat, a warning. Never call on anything lower than the Most High. I have a theory that part of the reason that Haiti is such a mess is because so much voodoo has been done there. And voodoo is basically calling upon, you know, entities which are not, you know, the Most High. In fact, you know, so once you let that genie out of the bottle, you never know what it's going to do. It might be like, hey man, you woke me up for this, okay. Don't dabble in that stuff. Don't dabble in, you know, witchcraft or magic or voodoo or any of that. You don't need it. All you need to do is, you know, stay aligned with your Dharma and keep your karma aligned with your Dharma. And me personally, I mean, I do like to pray and meditate, and I've read a lot of different techniques and stuff. And, you know, here's what I do. You can do this or not, doesn't matter. You find your own way. But for me personally, you know, I drop down to my knees. I do this once or twice a day. Or sometimes I just cross my legs and, you know, look at the tip of my nose or whatever. And The first thing I do is say thank you. I call it God, you call it whatever. Thank you for the guidance and the protection and all the blessings in my life and the good people you've sent into my life and all the gifts with which you have endowed me, and thank you for all that stuff. And then I go and I know that I've messed up, and listen, now we've all done things we're not proud of, and I say, listen, if you can find it in your heart, please forgive me. I promise I'll try to do better. And then I basically say, it's kind of like pray for other people. It's kind of how I close it. I'll be like, I know my friend so-and-so might be going through something, and, it'd be great if you got some angels that are, don't need to be around me, if you could send them over his or her way and help them out of this mess that they're in, that'd be great. And, I pray for my enemies too. That jerk at work who keeps harassing me and trying to get me fired, please, let him or her focus on their own work so that they don't get their own ass fired, and, help them to, relieve them of whatever envy it is that they have for me. And that's what bullying always is, by the way. As someone who's been bullied all my life, it's always just because they're jealous, They want to think they're better than you, but, they know they're not, so they bully you. Be another example of good karma that seems bad, Sometimes if someone's bullying you or bullying someone else, you gotta put them on the mat, put your knee on their neck and say, stop fucking with me, man. If you do it again, I'm gonna hurt you. Rub their nose in it a little bit. Do it on the schoolyard, in front of everybody. And do it quick. Don't turn it into a fight. Just put them on the mat. But if you do that to somebody, you better make sure they deserve it. It should be the last resort. And by the way, I'm not advocating physical violence. It's metaphorical. Sometimes you gotta put somebody in their place. So to recap, karma is just action. Good karma is good action. Good action is not always, peace, love, and light, man. Sometimes you gotta be a little bit cruel to be kind, but very rarely. And generally, you want to treat people respectfully and be nice and kind, and you never know who you're talking to. That homeless bum on the street could be an angel of God, testing you. And speaking of God, that's all you need. Never, ever engage the services of any entity lower than God itself, himself, herself, whatever. The Most High God, Krishna, or whatever you want to call it. Spirit, Allah, Yahweh, whatever. Serve that God. The God of peace, the God of truth, the God of joy, the God of love, not the other one, the one that's all about deceit and lust and greed and all the bad things. Fuck that guy. That's like, he's higher than most of those voodoo entities, but he's a little peon compared to the Most High, so never serve that guy. So, and, don't dabble in that stuff. Just be good, good karma, man. Again, happy birthday, Mom. And I'm Charles Lennart. This has been the NI versus AI podcast. And may you proceed with good karma, and may it bring you many happy returns. Have a wonderful day, night, evening, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening.